Brought to you by our exclusive fabric partners. Be sure to look for their newest lines of fabric.
Welcome to Quiltmaker's Block Network. I'm Eileen Fowler from Quiltmaker magazine, and in today's episode I'm going to show you Petit Fours block number 588, designed by Marian Mapes for Quiltmaker's 100 Blocks Volume 6. And I'll show you how easy it is to sew set-in seams. For this block you'll need 2 lights, 2 mediums, and 2 dark fabrics. The fabric requirements and cutting dimensions are on the right of your screen. If you'd like to write these down, pause your video. The squares from the light fabrics are cut diagonally both ways to make 4 triangles. And then for your rectangles, you'll want to mark 2 1/4 inches from the bottom toward the center, and then draw a diagonal line from the corner to that marking on both sides. Then trim off along that drawn line, so you'll have a piece that looks like this. And you'll want to do that with all of the medium and dark rectangles. Okay, to begin our set-in seams, I'm going to mark 1/4 inch from the edge on this seam line and this edge to create an X right there in that corner. I'll do that with all the patches I've cut in the same corner, and in the triangles of the lights I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark an X right there. I'm going to find the 2 intersections of this medium patch and the dark patch by using a pin to go through that X on both sides. Just pin that in place. And I want to sew in this direction, so I'm going to put another pin just to remind me that's the direction I want to sew. But I'm actually going to sew from the X, and I'll take a couple of stitches and then backstitch and then move toward this intersection. I want to sew right at that corner. Here's the stitching. And I'm just going to finger press that open before I sew in my triangle. And I'm going to follow the same procedure. I'm going to look for the intersection here, and with right sides together, I'm going to find the intersection of this one, the pin in place, line up the edges, and I'm going to add a pin to this edge. I'll take it to my sewing machine and I'll sew 1/4 inch down this intersection right to the X, take a couple of back stitches, and that seam will be done. And I've sewn that with red thread so you can see that a little better. For the final intersection, I'm going to mark through the X on the triangle. And you want to move the dark out of the way so you don't sew through that. Pin that in place. Take it to your sewing machine and sew a couple of stitches, starting at the X, back stitch, and then sew down through this intersection. Now, I haven't pressed any of the patches. I've done some finger pressing. So I'll take it to my ironing board now and I'll press away from the light triangle. And your final unit will look like this. You'll make 4 of these in these colors, and you'll make 4 in your second set of colors, the same way. Then to assemble this block, you'll have 4 quadrants. Each quadrant will have a unit of each color. So you'll join those two units together so they look like this unit. And so 2 of those together for the top half and 2 for the bottom half, and join the top and the bottom together. And your final block will look like this. In a simple 4x4 layout, your quilt will look like this. If we change some of the fabric placements in the block, we can get a quilt that will look like this. If I use only 1 light, 1 medium, and 1 dark fabric in the block, I can make a quilt that looks like this. If I change the placement of some of those fabrics, just using those 3 colors again, I can get a quilt that looks like this. Rotating some of the fabrics that were used in the last block, I can get a quilt that looks like this. Petit Fours and 99 other fun blocks are available in Quiltmaker's 100 Blocks Volume 6. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you'll join us again soon for another episode of Quiltmaker's Block Network. If you'd like to write Okay, here we go again.